Hello, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Homoeopathy Super Sessions by Dr. Jargos. Today, we'll be doing the last part, that is the editorial remarks on alterations, part 2. This chapter affirms the question of alternations being a practical one. So in this chapter, the editor has said that alternations can be administered and is quite practical. It has to be decided by experience. No argumentation will suffice to prove what is right or what is wrong. So only experience will tell you whether alternations of remedies were a success or a failure, and no argumentation will suffice to prove what is right or wrong. Only experience will be the deciding factor. It has to be established on the principles of homeopathy. But he says that whatever experience is there, it has to be decided or it has to be established on the principles of homeopathy. Regarding experience, no clarification is given whether it belongs to the person or his neighbor. So experience also out here. He says that there is no clarification being given whether the experience should be of that person or of his neighbors. If experience taken into account, it has to be a comparative experience. So whatever experience you're taking into account, it has to be comparative. Here he has to say that he has taken the remedy into account according to Hahnemann's principles, and then for a period of time, he has used alternations. That means what? Comparative experience meaning what? The physician will say that he has taken into account the remedy, which is based on Hahnemann's principles. But after giving that remedy, there is no particular relief. So what does he do? He goes to the shortcut of prescribing in alternation. That is, two remedies alternating with each other and it is not based on the Hahnemannian principles. And he said that my success under the latter period was good. That means what? When he has used for a certain period of time the method of alternations, that the success period was much better as compared to when he had followed the Hahnemannian principles of using one single simple medicine. So thus we conclude that the author has always practiced alternations based upon established principles. So therefore, we can conclude that whatever alternations he has done, he has based it upon the established principles. But he bases the argument upon the assumed imperfection of the materia medica. But he always blames that whatever medicine he has given in alternations, they were not, or rather, whatever medicine he had given on a single simple medicine, it was some problem in the imperfection of the materia medica, or the materia medica was faulty, as a result of which good result wasn't obtained. So therefore, he went into alternation of remedies. Thus, if our guess is correct, that the experience is confined to the practice of alternations, and it has always a negative value. So therefore, a person who always goes on grumbling or goes on assuming that the materia medica is imperfect and then uses alternations, it always has a negative value. There is no success by alternation in one's practice. So if you use this method routinely in your practice, there is no success. The question now remains that success could be greater if no alternations were used. So if you see the opposite, that if you do not use alternations, then the success would be greater. The editorial note to Dr. Hahnemann's paper refers to Hahnemann's experience and adheres to the single remedy. So, according to Hahnemann's experience, the editor always adheres to the Hahnemann's experience of a single simple remedy. The results are more satisfactory than those used for alternation. Naturally, the results are much more better, or they give a more satisfactory result as compared to results when the remedies are given in alternations. The only reason for practicing alternations is the want of perfection of the materia medica. That means what? Why will you practice alternations? Because your materia medica is not perfect, or you're not very conversant with the materia medica, or you still want the materia medica to become more perfect. Well, alternations can be used at all, if at all, in an emergency. Alternations, when used, can destroy the disease more quickly, but the results could be uncertain. So he says that sometimes in an emergency, if you use it, the results could be quick, it could be advisable, but the results still are uncertain. You will not be 100% sure that you hit the bull's eye. It takes a long time to destroy the disease by the use of a single medicine, but the results are assured. But at the same time, if you would use a single medicine based upon the principles of homeopathy, according to the laws of similars, it may take some more time, but the results are assured, or you are quite sure, 100% sure that the patient will be all right, as compared to alternations when the result is uncertain. He compares it to an armament. So he says that the efficiency of armament is not depending, it does not depend upon the number of weapons, but rather on the skill in which the weapons are used. So if you compare it to an armament is where the weapons are stored for the use of war, and the armament or the efficacy or the usefulness of the armament will not depend upon how many weapons are stored, but rather it will depend upon with what skill these weapons are used. So even if an armament has a few weapons, but a person who is using these weapons are skilled, then he will have success. That's a proper weapon use. Now, weapon out here is compared to a single remedy, may be efficacious in destroying the complex disease as compared to a person who uses two remedies to destroy the disease. So if a single remedy is used or a proper weapon is used, then you can destroy the complex disease, as compared when you're giving two remedies to destroy the disease without much relief. Disease may express themselves in different ways. To combat the disease of various forms, we must find one remedy which covers the characteristic symptom of the whole case. So therefore, if we want to combat the disease which projects itself in various forms, maybe a complex disease, double complex disease, a triple complex disease, or whatever it may be, then we have to choose one remedy which covers up the characteristic totality of the whole case. In the olden days, brute force was used to overcome the disease. So in the olden days, what? Great force was used, or in other terms, brute force was used to overcome the disease, as seen by the various methods of treatment like isopathy, allopathy, enantiopathy, or heteropathy, or topopathy, in which brute force was used. Hercules had this brute strength, but he lacked the intellectual acuteness and skill. So here is compared it to a Roman figure of Hercules, who was a very strong man, and he had great brute force in which he used to overcome his enemies. But he lacked the intellectual acuteness and the skill. So what did he do? Just by the Hercules, by his brute force, he destroyed the enemy. But if he had more intellect and more skill, less damage would be caused with more precision. Similarly, out here, the author has compared that when you use the brute force, just like Hercules did, you are destroying the disease. At the same time, you're creating more harm, or the side effects are there, which may be more detrimental to the patient, as compared if you would use one single remedy with your acuteness and skill, then only you'll be able to conquer the disease correctly. Thus, by using brute strength to combat the disease, the tedious and uncertain affair, we have taken into account the individual's characteristics and strike with one single weapon, that is the inter remedy based on characteristic symptoms. So basically what you have to do, we do not have to use brute force, we do not have to give alternation of medicines, but we have to take into account the individual's characteristic symptoms and strike with one single weapon, that is one single simple remedy based on characteristic symptoms. Thus, having too many weapons in the armory become inconsistent with simplicity and efficiency. So therefore, in an armory, if you have many weapons, it becomes inconsistent or is not good, as compared in an armory where you have only few weapons, but they are simple and they are effective. So in homeopathy, this armory is compared, many weapons are compared to many drugs, and less weapons are compared to a single drug. The Japanese wear two swords and yet lose the single raiper, that is a thin pointed sword of the Frenchman. So he's given an example that if that in Japan, the Japanese wear the two swords, like the samurai, they have the two swords, but yet they lose to the single raiper of the Frenchman. But a Frenchman has only one raiper or one thin sword, and if the Japanese man was to fight the Frenchman, then the Frenchman would win, because he used a very sharp, thin-pointed sword, which is only 1 in number, as compared to the Japanese sword, which were 2 in number. So out here again is comparing it to the remedies. If you give 2 or more remedies and alternations, you lose. If you give a single remedy, you win. Thus, the use of 2 or more remedies in alternation is of no use as compared to the use of a single simple remedy based on the characteristic symptom. So time and again, what Hahnemann reminds us, or the editorial remarks reminds us, that whenever you're using the remedy, either 2 or more, that too in alternations, it has to be a single simple remedy based on characteristic symptoms. Here, the first remedy is given. The remedy has emulated patient to a certain extent. There is no further emulation taking place. You retake the case, you find out the remedy 2. The remedy 2 is given, and the case then gets cured. So out here, what are we doing? We are alternating 2 medicines which are based on the symptom similarity. The totality has changed and the remedy has changed. So we are taking into account the man as a whole. We are not just blindly prescribing remedy 1 and remedy 2 in alternations. So that's all for this video. And I think so I have finished all the chapters which are in your syllabus according to Carol Dunham. So I hope you enjoyed all the videos on this chapter on the book of Carol Dunham. And I hope you all do well in your examinations and it becomes simple for you to follow the language, which I have tried to simplify for you in my best possible way I can. So today, till date, I have 88 videos in my YouTube channel. Please do publicize my channel to different people from different colleges so that they also benefit. Thank you very much.